But I'm here to talk about my Olympic experience and my Olympic moment, and I hope as you listen to me relate my story, I hope that you'll find some parallels between my moments and the everyday moments that you and everyone else here have to compete in. Winning at your job, excelling at your career, and achieving what you want out of life. So I had my Olympic moment, and as you saw, it was pretty good. Things worked out pretty well. But I think the important thing is that you hear a lot of people say, and a lot of people ask you, that must have been a great moment. That must have been such a great moment to cross the finish line. And it must have been such a great moment to stand on the podium and listen to your anthem. But the thing is the Olympic moment is more than just that one period of time. The Olympic moment is all those little moments that have gone into it. Some are great, some are forgettable, but they're the moments that contribute to that one moment. And when you're standing on the podium and you're singing your anthem, you're thinking back to the 10 years, the 12 years, sometimes the 15 or 20 years worth of moments that have gone into that. Now, back when I was a kid in school, I used to read these books called Choose Your Own Adventure. Does anybody? Yeah. Okay, good. Everybody knows what I'm talking about. And in case you didn't, Choose Your Own Adventure, you're the main character in the story. And you get to choose where the storyline goes. And my favorite book was one called You Are a Superstar. And the premise of that one was that you woke up one morning and found that you were great at whatever you wanted to do. And I spent a lot of time as a kid with that in my head. I spent a lot of time thinking, how great would that be? To just wake up one morning and be great at whatever you wanted to. You could wake up one morning and be an Olympic track star, or be a great swimmer, or be a great hockey player. I used to think that that's what I wanted. But I found, with training at UBC, and the time I spent with the national team, training for the Olympics, winning and losing, I found that you're not proud of your accomplishment for the accomplishment's sake, but rather for the path you had to take to get there. You're proud of your accomplishments because they were hard, because they required work, and because of those moments along the way. And back when I was going through those attempts at other sports, and back when my dad kept encouraging me as best he could, what I didn't realize then, and what I know now, is that regardless of my height, I was still growing mentally. In fact, the mental side of being an athlete never really started clicking until I went back to UBC rowing after a 2-year break. I'd rowed for a couple of years. Then I took a couple of years off rowing, one of those off school entirely. And when I went back to rowing in the fall of 2000, was one of the first signs that I was really starting to mature as an athlete. And someone once said that it's the price of leadership to do what you believe has to be done at the time that it must be done. And to me, that means overcoming fear and discomfort to do what you need to do. Now, when I was a kid and a teenager and a 22-year-old, I wasn't the kind of guy who would, I was pretty timid. I wasn't the kind of guy who would naturally go outside his comfort zone. I wasn't one of those guys who would see a moment and think, yes, that is what I want to do. That makes me uncomfortable, that scares me, but it's what I want to do. For me, it was more like, well, that'd be nice, but that makes me uncomfortable. That really scares me. I think I'll just let that pass. I'm going to be over here. And for me, going back to rowing was one of those moments. It was the end of September, so the team had already been training for 4 weeks, and I didn't know anybody on the team because I'd already been out for 2 years, and they'd already done some pre-selection. So ordinarily for me, I would have just said, you know what, I'd like to do that, but it's too late. You don't do that. You don't go to the coach and ask for a favor. You don't ask to be put onto an already established team. But for some reason, I decided, no, I'm going to go for it. So I walked across campus to the gym. I walked through the gym doors, down the hall to the coach's office, and I knocked on his door. And he wasn't there. And to be honest, my first thought was, whew, all right, I don't have to do this. I can say I tried. I can say I came out and he wasn't there, and I can go back to my comfort. I can work on that paper I have due, and I don't have to do this. But for some reason, and to this day, I still don't know why, I decided to stay. So I waited. And I went back down the hall to the waiting area, and I sat down and waited. And I must have waited 20, 30, 40 minutes. And during that time, at least twice, I thought to myself, he's gone for the afternoon. This clearly wasn't meant to be. If it was meant to be, he'd have been here, I'd have talked to him already. Clearly, I should just go home home. I should just go back to that paper, go back to my comfort zone. But again, I stayed. And then, after about a half hour, I saw him walk through the gym doors, down the hall to the office. And I am embarrassed to say that the first thought that came into my head was, I don't think he saw me. There's no proof I was here. I can go home, I can pretend that he wasn't here, I can pretend that I can say that I tried and nothing, wasn't going to work. But obviously, as I'm sure you've figured out by now, I changed my mind. I went down the hall to his office, and I asked to go back, and obviously he said yes. And every time I think about that, I think about how close I came. How close I came to not going outside my comfort zone. How close I came to not going back to rowing. And how close I came to having a completely different life. Because had I not gone into that office, and had I not returned to UBC rowing, probably would have graduated, gotten my teaching degree, probably would have married someone else. And I certainly would have been watching the 2004 and 2008 Olympics from my couch in my living room. Though I'm sure I'd have been happy, I'm pretty sure I'm happier now. Because through UBC rowing and then with the national team, I made some great friends. And not only good people, but role models as well, guys I trust with anything. And through UBC rowing, I met my wife. And this is the woman who supported me both emotionally and financially for the last 8 years. So obviously I'm grateful for that. And 2 years after I went back to UBC rowing, I made the national team. And 2 years after that, I was going to my first Olympics in Athens.